for sure. In Switzerland, the most consumed wine are the local Swiss wine, with more or less 35%, followed closely by Italian wines. They are at 26%. Then we have in third position the French wine with 14%, followed by Spain and other nations. But if we look at the color of the wine, the most consumed red wine overall are Italian wine. The Swiss wine are very strong in white wine, while the Italian are very strong in the red. And if we look at the world of the sparkling wine, Italy is absolutely dominant, followed by French. In Switzerland, the production of sparkling wine is very, very low. So to answer your question, how important is Italy in the Swiss market, I would say that it's very, very important. It's the most important country of imports.
Welcome to this special Clubhouse session of the Italian Wine Podcast. Listen in as members of the Italian wine community engage in fascinating conversations about contemporary wine topics. If you enjoyed the show, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. And remember to subscribe and rate the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your pods.
Hi everyone, this is Beatrice welcoming you to the Italian Wine Clubhouse Ambassadors Corner, one of the top-ranked shows on Italian Wine Podcast. Here, our ambassadors get the mic to interview their favorite producers with total freedom. And if you miss it live, no worries, it's all recorded and dropped later on the Italian Wine Podcast. Today's guest host is Lisa Lazzaretto. Lisa Lazzaretto is a Switzerland-based entrepreneur, wine professional and marketing strategist. She holds a doctorate in political science and a diploma in marketing, and is the founder of Wine Mood, an e-commerce platform dedicated to curated Italian wines. Today she's gonna interview Andrea Bocchino from Vini. So Lisa, Andrea, how you doing, guys?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Bea.
Very well, thank you.
Lisa, are you ready for our 3 ritual questions?
Yes, sure.
First one, how did you get in touch for the first time with Andrea?
Well, I first got in touch with Andrea through our professions, of course. We are both Italian wine distributors based in small southern part of Switzerland, which is Ticino. And so we have mutual industry connections in Switzerland, of course.
So tell us, why did you select Andrea as your featured guest?
Well, I selected Andrea because he represents a significant and actually historical importer of Italian wines in Switzerland. And he's also in the board of Wine Trading Association in Switzerland. So I think that he has really deep understanding of the market.
Wonderful. What are the learning objectives that we should expect from this interview?
I hope that we will understand how Italian producer can position themselves successfully in Switzerland and gain some insight into current market situation and trends, and also consumer behavior in Switzerland, and also maybe learn what importers are looking for when selecting new Italian wine estates.
Perfect. That sounds like a really nice plan to me, so it's time for me to mute myself. Now, I'm turning over the floor to you, Lisa. Have a nice interview, guys.
Thank you, Bea. So, Andrea, it's nice to hear you. And I will start with my first question. How would you describe the state of the Swiss wine market in 2025? Is Switzerland still one of the most stable and premium wine markets in Europe, like it used to be, like it was seen since a really long period of time? What do you think?
Thank you, Lisa. First of all, I apologize for my English because I'm not used to speaking in English. In Switzerland, we speak Italian, French, and German, but I will try to make my best. To answer to your question, we can say that in general, the market of premium wine is quite stable, even if the consumption of wine has decreased in the last years. Last year, in 2025, the average consumption was around 29 liters per person. And if we think that in 2020 it was around 34 liters, so it means that we have a significant decrease of consumption, and we have lost about 5 liters in 6 years. But if we look at the statistics in terms of turnover, the decrease is less marked. This means that the premium wine decreases more slowly than the cheaper wines. So for sure, at the moment, Switzerland is one of the most stable premium wine in Europe, but the situation is getting worse. This is not a good news, but if we want to see a good news, we can say that people drink less but drink better. Lisa, I don't know if you understand with what I have said before.
Yes, sure, Andrea, of course. Your English, I have to say, it's really good, so don't worry about it. I also see this in the way like you do, and I think that it's still premium-driven market, but it is not static at all, and it is getting more segmented and more competitive. Every year, even more competitive. So that will lead us to my second question. What do you think? Have you seen significant changes in consumer behavior over the last 3-5 years? You just mentioned that they start drinking less, but maybe they select some more, they go to the premium direction, or are they more price driven now? So what do you think?
Definitely, yes. The consumers are changing their consumption habits. What we observe is that people are looking for a wine that are lighter, less strong, and with a lower alcohol content. If 5 years ago a high alcohol content and a strong tannin was a sign of quality and was appreciated, today it's no longer the case. White wine and sparkling wines works well, and they are more consumed during the aperitivo time, while red and rosé wine are less demanded and are more consumed during lunch or dinner time. So the change is not only in the wine, as in the product, but also in how the people drink this wine. We can say that also in Switzerland, aperitivo time that is more an Italian style is becoming also in Switzerland.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I think also that Swiss consumers, they go out less for dinner now, or they also drinking less during dinner. It's not like they used to drink some years ago, which were really a lot of wine bottles consumed, I think, outside of home. And also important fact for me is that I think that they are doing now more research. I'm now speaking about e-commerce side, and I think that now today consumers, they doing more research before purchasing, and they're paying greater attention to price. So in general, the consumption, of course, is slowing, even with some, like you told, white wine or sparkling or low alcohol wine segment is growing. And my next question would be, how important is Italy within the Swiss wine market today? I mean, of course, it is the main part of your portfolio, I know it. But what do you think in general about Swiss wine market? Is Italy still one of the main countries for wine for Switzerland?
For sure. In Switzerland, the most consumed wine are the local Swiss wine, with more or less 35%, followed closely by Italian wines. They are at 26%. Then we have in third position the French wine with 14%, followed by Spain and other nations. But if we look at the color of the wine, the most consumed red wine overall are Italian wine. The Swiss wine are very strong in white wine, while the Italian are very strong in the red. And if we look at the world of the sparkling wine, Italy is absolutely dominant, followed by French. In Switzerland, the production of sparkling wine is very, very low. So to answer your question, how important is Italy in the Swiss market, I would say that it's very, very important. It's the most important country of imports.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree with you. So we are coming to my next question. Which Italian regions are currently overperforming? Are these still these classic regions for red wines like Tuscany and Piedmont? Are they still dominant? Or, like you just mentioned, there are also huge demand for sparkling wine, and maybe Veneto with Prosecco phenomenon is now overperforming. What is your observation about the regions of Italy?
Yes, the classic region like Piedmont and Tuscany are still important, but they are not so longer dominant. What you said before, the Veneto region has grown significantly in the last 5-6 years, thanks to Prosecco effect. The regions that have lost some grounds are the southern part of Italy, Abruzzo, Puglia, and Sicily, due to what we have said before. the search of wine with lower alcohol. We have also to say that in Abruzzo, Puglia, and Sicily, due to the condition, the weather, temperature, the rain, this part of Italy, they produces a lot of red wine, and the red wine is the wine that is more increases. If we look to a region that normally we don't think a lot about, it's Sardinia. Sardinia is a stable region because they have a well balance between red and white wine. So this is what we observe with our sales and with our company. I don't know if you observe also the same things and if you have the same feeling.
Yes, but I'm less concentrated on Sardinia region, so this information was quite interesting for me, actually, from your perspective. I see a lot of growth for Veneto, Prosecco. Region is really, it is booming, and it's the most sold sparkling wine for me, but also maybe the most sold category for me right now. And Primitivo, as you told, it is declining a bit. But if you have some strong brands, I think you still have your consumers who buy probably the same brand as they used to buy. It is becoming a bit more difficult for Amarone, which was typically very strong in Switzerland. I see now a slight decrease. Maybe also Piedmont, like everyone was looking for Barolo 3-5 years ago. Now it's becoming a bit less requested, is what I feel. But I think still there are some lesser known regions which are gaining now shelf space, which are, let's say, have a good chance to gain shelf space. I personally love Sicilian region, Etna, volcanic region. I love it, the wines from Etna. And I also love South Tyrol wines. But of course, this is my personal perspective. But I think these kind of regions where you do produce some acidic, fresh, white wines with a good structure, not so strong alcohol, I think they actually potentially can gain on some shelf space in the future. This is how I see the market. And what do you think? Is the Swiss market moving further toward premium or lower priced wines? I think we just discussed it very, very briefly, but I would like to hear your opinion on that. And what do you think? How sensitive are Swiss consumer to price increases? Because we all have this cliche in the wine world, at least, that Swiss consumers they are also rich. They don't look at the price, and if they like the brand, they spend all the money they have, and they don't even compare the prices. So, what is your perception about this? Is it still premium, or now they are also looking for low priced wines?
So what you said, it's a little bit a cliche because people that look Switzerland from outside, they always say, yeah, in Switzerland it's so easy. They are rich people, but it's not always in this way. Price is always an important factor, especially in an historical moment like this, where wars and uncertainty are very present in the mind of population. If we look at the last 3 days, we have always bad news with this new war, and in general, it's not good, but it's also not good for the wine business. So it's very difficult to answer to this question because in addition of the price, what influences also the reduction in consumption is also healthier lifestyle with a reduction in alcohol consumption and therefore less wine is drunk. I think that in the future, the ratio between premium wines and the lower price wines will remain quite stable, even if the premium wines suffer less. The reduction in consumption is quite transversal. People will always consume wine. They will consume less, but better, as we said before, but they will continue to consume wine.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have to remember always that the consumption is declining and it makes everything a bit difficult. And we have to watch and all these price questions from this perspective as well. What I personally think that the lower price wine segment is actually kind of growing in Switzerland. I think you could see this request also to spend a bit less money for like everyday wines, but there is also this consumption of premium wines, which is more or less losing maybe some percentage, but it's still requested for some special occasions or for some presents or whatever, some tastings and so on. So it's kind of a little bit of polarization, in my opinion. And also, I think that the medium price producers actually can suffer from all these market dynamics a little bit. For sure, the medium price producers who don't have kind of a strong brand, I think this is the part of the market which could possibly suffer from these trends. The next question is about organic and biodynamic certification. What do you think? How important it is actually for you personally, the sustainability and organic and biodynamic certifications in your purchasing decision? Can it be something like purchase driver for you if the producer has this organic certification, or it isn't that much important for you?
So if I look at our customers, what I can say you for the Swiss market is that there is certainly a part of population that is sensitive to this issue. But for us, these biodynamic or bio wines, for the moment, they are a niche market. Many people talks about this issue, but then are not willing to spend more money to buy an organic or a biodynamic wine. And sometimes when we speak about these types of wine, there is also a problem of quality because these wines keep less than traditional wines. This is not for all this way because there are also biodynamic and organic wine that they are very well in quality. But I would say that in Switzerland, for the moment, these types of certification are more important, not in the wine market, but maybe in the fruit or in the vegetables market. I know when I speak with other importers that they import maybe in the north part of the Europe. In the north part of the Europe, this certification, they have more importance. But what I observe for the moment in Switzerland, we don't have this importance on this type of wines.
I also think that it can be quite important, but it's not decisive on your purchasing decision. So let's talk a little bit about different styles of wine. We already mentioned it very briefly that it's kind of the shift in the consumer behavior, and we are all moving towards some lighter styles, low alcohol, fresher profiles. Do you really feel it in your distribution? Is it really now more requested than in previous years? And is red structured, heavy, bold wines, are they suffering from these kind of changes? We already talked about some regions which do suffer, but maybe you could tell a little bit more details about lighter styles and low alcohol wines in the Swiss market.
Definitely, as said before, the people are increasingly looking for a fresh and useful style. A healthier lifestyle also means drinking wine with lower alcohol contents. For example, in some countries, white wine are sold with an alcohol content of 9%. In Switzerland, it's not yet the right time, but I'm sure this type of wine will arrive soon. And there is also another factor to consider, the climate changing. More and more warmer summer and warmer winter are pushing the trend towards lower alcohol wines. Then we have to see also that the younger people changes faster if we look to the older people that change slower. What you said before, Amarone, for example, is suffering. Barolo is suffering. The consumer is changing the habits. And the younger consumer, they change faster than the older.
Okay, thank you. And what about no alcohol wines? Do you already have them in your portfolio?
We have begun for 1 year to import some no alcohol. I have to say for the moment it's really a niche market. With this type of wine, we have to find a new consumer because a consumer that is used to consume a wine with alcohol, it will never consume a wine without alcohol because the difference in quality is very, very big. What can help these wines are the mocktail. for example, because now you find also this mocktail with gin without alcohol, rum without alcohol in the sparkling. This can help the sales. So what I see, if it's that for the sparkling, there can be a market, but we are only at the beginning. Maybe in 5 or 10 years, the sale of this non-alcohol will be much more.
Yes, I totally agree. No alcohol wines, of course, it's a very interesting topic, but I think that we didn't reach that level of quality yet to attract their wine lovers. It is really, like you said, some niche market for maybe no really wine consumers. Let's call it like this. And mocktails, yes, this is, of course, a big topic now in the industry. To be honest, for me, I do like no alcohol wines, but only from Bellini. They do this cocktail from peach juice with dealcoholized prosecco, and this I really find tasty, and I can drink it and I can enjoy it in summer, for example. But everything else, it's still kind of. I'm waiting. So how have sales channels evolved in Switzerland? What do you think? Did the sales channels like retail, gastronomy, and direct to consumer changed during the last 3-5 years?
Let's start with retail, because about 65% of wine in Switzerland is sold through retail, which is therefore the most important sales channel. So every producer would like to sell through retail, but sell through retail is very difficult for many reasons. The gastronomy, I think, this is my opinion, in Switzerland as a major problem, because the wine are sold in restaurant at a too high price. So the consumption is below their true potential. Normally, when you go to a restaurant, the price of the wine is multiplied by 3, or in some cases, even more. For the e-commerce, he has reached his peak sales during the COVID. After the pandemic period, the people returned shopping in the supermarket. So what I see is that in the last 2-3 years, the e-commerce is stable, but significantly lower than during the COVID. So if I can now, Lisa, I make a question to you, because you live also in Switzerland, and I want to see what do you think of the prices of the wines in gastronomy. I know that if we speak with someone that owns a restaurant, he will say yes, that prices are for him are good, because he also has a lot of costs. But I think that if the prices were not so high, the restaurants had a better potential in the sales.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for this question. I think it can be a really long discussion, because from the point of view of the consumer, or like a restaurant visitor, who can be maybe price sensitive in this last period during to some wars, to some economical situation, and so on. Of course, I would tell you the same, that like 3 times charging more for bottle is just too high, and I think it's not quite fair. If we are speaking about the wine business, it's just not fair for the wine producers, because this, of course, definitely makes people think, and maybe makes them choose other alternatives like cocktail, for example, or beer. So it's a long discussion, because from another point of view, the restaurant owner, of course, they also have to maybe have a product where they can charge more to have more margin on some, on some weak days and so on. So I'm not a restaurant owner, and I think it's quite a hard job. I don't know actually reach restaurant owners. Let's say that it's a really hard job, and they have to take some strategical decision about their price points and about charging for wine. So probably they have a good reason to charge 3 times more per bottle. But let's say that this kind of conversation we really have to make with a restaurant owner. I think that some, maybe you are more close to their logic, because I cannot really relate to this role. What I wanted to add about the e-commerce channel, that competition of e-commerce after COVID peak got really strong. So I think this is also can be a kind of strong factor which can hold the e-commerce development, because now every small Enetec, every producer in the area, they have their own website. And with the competition, of course, the price transparency online is very high, and it's not always bringing only advantages. So this is why I think that e-commerce sector now is kind of missing this drive which it used to have during COVID peak, because at that time we had much less websites which were working actively in Switzerland. Okay, let's now think about Italian wine producers' perspective for a moment. And what do you think? How difficult is it actually to introduce new or unknown producers into the Swiss market? And what makes you, as a decision maker, decide to take on a new Italian producer?
So to introduce unknown producers, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. It depends a lot on the type of products they sell, the region they come from, the price, and the label design. If the producers advertises in specialized magazine or in social, it's certainly easier. And the timing when they wanted to introduce the products is also important. I will give you a practical example. We recently introduced a new unknown producer of Puglia. We needed a new wine from Puglia because we had an old producer that he has sold his company, and the new owner, he was not interested in selling more these products, but it was more interesting in vineyards. So we said, okay, we need someone new. We are selecting different criteria. They were the wine quality, the price, the label design, and the advertising that the producer's making. We ranked the producers and we choose a new producer. Why the timing is important? Because we needed this at this time. 3 years before, we had also producers that came to us and asked us if we want to import their product, but at that time we didn't need this product. So the timing is also important. Another example, for 3 years in our portfolio, we had only one Franciacorta. It is a premium Franciacorta. And we had a customer that asked us for a Franciacorta, but in the lower price segment. So we said, okay, we need a new Franciacorta. We selected 3 unknown producers with a lower price. And then we decided to introduce this product in our portfolio.
Okay, thank you. It was very interesting. Continuing this question, what do you think are the biggest challenges for Italian wine importers like you in Switzerland today?
For an importer, what is important is to have a well-balanced portfolio of products. It's important to have well-known producers, but also unknown ones. It's also important to have premium wines and low-cost wines. And what is also very, very important is to have a solid sales networking through all the Swiss and a fast and efficient logistic network. So there are many factors for the success. And then the decrease of consumption will make the market smaller. So for sure, in the next year, we will see some companies, importer was also producer, that will disappear off the market. That's a sad news, but maybe the good news is that who will stay on the market will stay probably stronger than before.
Yes, I completely agree. The market is shrinking, and of course, there will be some difficult period during next years, but I also hope that at the end it will stabilize and we will have maybe less players, but stronger, and we will not have such a strong price competition everywhere. Now it's kind of extreme, I think. And you mentioned very interesting thing about Swiss market. You were mentioning logistics, because the Swiss market, it's really, really fragmented. And if you are not, if you're outside of it, you probably don't even realize how different regions of Switzerland can be. We have French influence, we have German influence, we have Italian influence, and these regions, they actually, these parts of Switzerland, they can be also mentally, let's say, very different. And it's not only the logistic, it's also the fragmentation of kind of purchasing decisions and of mentality of consumers, because the consumers could be very, very different in different cantons of Switzerland. So this is really important point to consider. So I think we arrived to my last question, Andrea. What advice would you give to Italian producers wanting to enter Switzerland? From your perspective, of course.
Before answering your question, I would say that what you said now is absolutely right. Switzerland is quite a little country, 8 million of people, but very, very different because we speak 3 languages. We have 3 different cultures, and also in the same culture, from one canton to another canton, we have very, very big difference. If you think also the people that speak the same languages, if you take a people of Zurich, is very different of a people of Bern. There are only 100 kilometers of difference between these 2 cities. Then to answer your question, the advices I would give. Giving advices is it's very, very difficult. But what I can say is that there are some aspects to consider, I would say, for the Swiss market, but not only for the Swiss market, but for the market in general. Because for me, what is important is to listen to the consumer and to understand how the consumer evolves over time. Too many producers look to tradition and history, continuing to make wine in the same style. If you want to be successful today, you have to be open-minded, modern, and innovative, without forgetting the history and the tradition. I know that it's easy to say, but it's more difficult to put in practice. I give you a practical example. If for 3 or 4 years ago, someone had said me, we will sell a Pinot Grigio with 9 degrees alcohol, I would say, you are crazy. But now in some countries, this is a reality. And that's, for me, is an example of being modern and being innovative. I know that a lot of producers, they are not happy with this type of products or of wine. A producer some months ago said me, Pinot Grigio with 9 degrees alcohol is not a wine, but this is the reality that we are living now.
Yes, thank you. So just to summarize, you would actually expect from them to be flexible, right? And to adapt to the current market situation, to the current demand, which I think in Europe is more or less going towards lighter wines, maybe low alcohol wines. Yeah, less heavy wines in general. I would definitely agree. Maybe also I would add that you have to be patient with the Swiss market, and also never underestimate the fragmentation of Swiss market, because it can be really a little bit confusing, like Andrea, you already telling us. And it's we speak 4 languages basically in this small country, and we are so different. One canton is different from other, even if they are maybe close, even if the geographical position can be close to each other, but they can be really, really different. And I think that every Italian company has to consider these facts. It can be a little bit confusing, also a bit of demanding, but at the end, of course, Swiss market, it's also prestigious, it's premium market. And once you are well established here, I think that consumer, if they see that you produce good quality wines, they will also remain with you, because Swiss consumer is actually supposed to be a little bit more traditional than the rest of the Europe, and maybe even a little bit less price sensitive. Yes, that was just my opinion from my side. And thank you very much, Andrea, for such an interesting discussion. I really enjoyed it. And I know how much experience you do have in this field, and your distributional channels, of course, vary. And this makes you really interesting interview partner. So thank you very much. And I think slowly we can come back to Bear. Am I right?
Yes, of course, you can come back to me. It was such a nice and lovely interview. Thank you so much, Lisa and Andrea. Thank you so much, guys, for spending time with us. How you doing? Are you happy with your interview? Because I'm happy for you guys, but I wanted to hear it from you also.
Yeah, I think if you correct a little bit, sometimes I was sometimes repeating the things and so on. But in general, I think actually for me it was more spontaneous interview. But I'm happy because I also knew some new things from Andrea. So for me it was interesting.
Yes, also for me it was interesting and I'm happy. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, both of you.
So to wrap things up, for those who are interested to participate, just send us a DM through our Instagram or mail our Italian Wine Podcast producer at info@italianwinepodcast.com. Thank you so much again, Lisa and Andrea, and thank you so much everyone for listening in. This is a wrap from Italian Wine Podcast. Ciao ciao!
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao a tutti.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, cin cin.